Welcome to Growing Tall Poppies, Thrive After Trauma. I'm your host, Dr. Nat Green, and I am so excited to have you join me as we discuss what it means to navigate your way through trauma or significant challenges and not just survive, but to thrive after it. This is a space for people who've been through trauma or adversity, have done some healing, and know they're meant for more than just coping. This podcast is about post-traumatic growth, not getting back to who you used to be. Rather, understanding who you are now and learning how to stand tall without shrinking, forcing, or abandoning yourself. Here, we explore identity after adversity, integrity and visibility wounds, nervous system wisdom, and what it really takes to move forward in a way that feels aligned, embodied, and true. You will hear a blend of deep solo conversations and powerful guest interviews with people who have lived this work, not just studied it. Because growth doesn't come from pushing harder, it comes from understanding how you adapted, honouring your nervous system, and gently updating the old agreements that no longer fit the life you're ready to live. If you're ready to stop hiding, stop performing, and start owning who you are becoming, then you are in the right place. Let's grow tall together. Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of Growing Tall Poppies. Today I want to talk about the cost of holding it all together and why high-functioning women really burn out quietly. You're getting everything done. You're showing up, you're functioning, you're highly reliable. People depend on you. And from the outside, it probably looks like you're handling life really well. But internally, that is a whole different story. And it's costing you way more than anyone ever gets to see. There's a tightness, a constant mental load, and a sense that you can't fully switch off. Even when you rest, you know you're not resting. Not really. And if I'm really honest, this is something I see all the time in the women that I work with, and it's often the women who are the most capable, the most self-aware, the most together, who are actually carrying the biggest load. But it's also something I know all too well personally. So today, I want to talk about this pattern because this isn't just about being busy. This is about something so much deeper. And there's a particular way of moving through the world that a lot of high-functioning women have mastered. They're brilliant, absolutely brilliant at this. And it's this: holding it together, holding it all together. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? You're holding it together emotionally. You're holding it together for everyone else. You're holding it together even when things feel completely overwhelming internally. And the thing is this: it's too often praised and looked up to. You're put up on this pedestal for being able to do it. You're seen as strong, capable, resilient, the one who can handle all the things. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? But what's rarely seen is that internal experience of what it takes to maintain that. Because holding it together, that's not neutral. I want to share something here, because this isn't something that I just see. It's something that I've lived. There have been many, many periods in my life, more than I'd like to acknowledge probably, where I've been navigating things that were deeply challenging and at times incredibly painful. And for a long time, I held it all in. I kept functioning, I kept showing up, I kept doing what needed to be done, doing all the things. And from the outside, it looked like I had all my crap together. I looked like I was managing. But underneath, my system was carrying so much more than anyone could see. And if I'm really honest, which you know me, you know I will be, so much of that wasn't just what was happening at the time. It was things that I'd been holding for years, so many years. Things that hadn't been fully processed, things that hadn't been fully released, and things that in many, many ways I just learned to live with. I thought that that's just what I had to do. And I remember having this moment where everything looked fine, but my body didn't feel fine at all. There was this constant tension, like I just couldn't fully drop in and be present to what was going on around me. Like I couldn't fully exhale and just breathe. And what really landed for me was this, that I actually wasn't okay. I was just very, very good at holding it all together, at staying composed, staying functional, staying in control. That's really what it was all about. And there was this part of me that didn't know how not to do that. It was all I knew. Because that pattern had served me for so, so long. But it was also the thing that was quietly costing me the most. I had to learn a way to navigate that, to own it, and really do the deeper work to change the pattern. And this is the part that's really important to understand. For many women, holding it together didn't start as strength. It started as an adaptation. I bet you that at some point in your life, it became safer to stay composed, to stay in control, to stay functional. Maybe there wasn't much space for your emotions. Maybe things felt really unpredictable. Maybe you were labelled too much. And maybe, just maybe, you learned that falling apart wasn't an option. So your system did something incredibly intelligent. It learned we stay in control, we keep going, we hold it together. And over time, that becomes who you are. That becomes the narrative and the identity that you proudly carry around. And this is where it often gets misunderstood. Because what looks like high performance, productivity, high levels of capability is often actually hypervigilance. It's your system staying alert, anticipating all the what ifs, managing everything, controlling because you just cannot trust. Not because you're trying to achieve more, but because your system has learned that it's safer when everything is handled. So you stay on, always slightly on. There's no off switch. And over time, that just becomes exhausting. And this is the part that often gets missed. Because you can maintain this pattern for a really long time. I can attest to that. Because your body is keeping track of all of it. That constant holding shows up as tension in the shoulders, tightness in the chest, bracing in the gut, and this deep-seated fatigue that doesn't ever fully resolve. Or even difficulty switching off, that feeling of being wired but tired. That sense of being on all the time. Because your system isn't just working hard, it's bracing and it's doing that constantly. And bracing over time leads to burnout, but not always the obvious kind. And this is what I call quiet burnout. It doesn't always look like collapse. It looks like you're still functioning, but with less joy in things. You're still showing up, but you're feeling disconnected. You're still achieving, but you're feeling really depleted underneath. And often, no one sees that because you are so good at what you've been doing for so long. You're still holding it together. And this is where it can feel really confusing because you might be thinking, why do I feel like this when everything looks fine? And the answer is because your system has been running in a state of subtle activation for such a long time. And underneath all of this, there's this identity. You're the strong one, the capable one, the one who doesn't fall apart, the one others rely on. And that identity can feel really hard, if not impossible to loosen. Because it's not just who you are, it's who you've had to be. There hasn't seemed to be any other choice. So even when part of you is tired, another part says, just keep going. You've just got to keep going. So this is where I believe we need to shift the conversation. Because the answer isn't just to rest, to take a break, go on a holiday, do some self-care. Sure, that can help, but it doesn't address the pattern. Because if your system is wired to brace, you'll just take that pattern with you into the rest. So real regulation isn't just about stopping. It's about teaching your system that it is safe not to hold everything together. And that's a really different experience. And that might look like letting your shoulders drop and actually noticing it. Allowing yourself to feel an emotion and letting that emotion move without immediately containing it. Might look like fixing everything immediately. Maybe letting something be unfinished without rushing to fix it. Or even allowing a moment where you're not on. Small moments, really small ones, where your system experiences something different. Maybe I don't have to hold everything right now. And this is where it gets even more interesting. Because we don't all hold it together in the same way. And this is where I really want to slow this down for a moment. Because one of the things that I see all the time is that people hear something like this and think, yes, I do this, but I don't fully understand how it shows up for me. Well, it actually shows up differently depending on your archetypal pattern. Each of your archetypes has its own way of staying safe, its own way of bracing. It has its own pattern of holding, its own way of staying safe, and its own way of carrying what hasn't yet been processed. So just notice what resonates for you as I move through these. I don't want you to analyze it. I just want you to notice which one feels most like you as I go through this. Let's start with the authentic warrior. This is the part of you that holds strength, that pushes through, that stays composed. You hold the line, and there's often this sense of, I can handle this. I'll get through it. But underneath that, there's this constant readiness. Your system is braced, prepared, holding. And in your body, it's held in the jaw, the shoulders, the arms. They're braced, ready, and guarded. Like you're always just slightly ready for impact. And maybe you're the resilient sage. And this is the part of you where holding it together looks like understanding, making meaning, staying in perspective. You see the bigger picture. You stay thoughtful and insightful. But what can happen is that you stay in your head and the body gets left behind. And your body hasn't fully processed it. And this often shows up as energy held in the head and the upper chest. Active, thinking, processing, slightly disconnected from deeper sensations. So I want you to just start to think through, are you connecting to either of those, the authentic warrior, the resilient sage? Now there's 7 of these archetypes. So if you haven't felt a deep connection to one of them yet, that's totally okay. The next one is the empowered trailblazer. This is the part of you that moves. Holding it together looks like taking action, creating momentum, moving forward. You don't stay stuck, and that's really powerful. But sometimes the movement becomes a way of not stopping because stillness is uncomfortable and it means feeling. And in the body, this shows up for you and is often held in the hips and the legs as a feeling of restlessness, being driven, always ready to move. Or are you the reflective orchestrator? And this is the part of you that manages. Holding it all together looks like managing everything, tracking everything, holding everything within you. You anticipate what's needed and you keep everything running. You're incredibly capable, but your system never switches off. Always scanning, always organising, and holding responsibility. And in the body, this is often held in the gut and the solar plexus, feeling tight, alert, scanning, and holding responsibility. Then there might be the radiant alchemist. This is the part of you that transforms. Holding it together looks like growth, transformation, finding meaning. You turn pain into purpose, and that's a beautiful gift. But sometimes you move to the transformation too quickly because your system has actually released what it's holding, and it's often held in the heart, open but carrying unprocessed emotion underneath. Or perhaps you resonate more with the Phoenix Riser. This is the part of you that holds it all together, and doing that looks like rising constantly, rebuilding, reinventing, starting again. And there's so much strength in that. But sometimes the rising happens so quickly that the body never fully lands. And this often shows up as being held deep in your core, a combination of strength layered over this deep fatigue and exhaustion that hasn't released. Or are you the liberated voyager? This is the part of you that seeks freedom, where holding it together looks like freedom, expansion, moving forward. You don't want to feel stuck or confined. You value space and possibility. And sometimes the movement towards freedom means moving away from what still needs to be felt. And this will show up for you as a holding in the breath and the chest, a subtle restriction like you can't fully exhale. And here's the key piece. None of these are wrong. They're actually highly intelligent adaptations and ways that your system has learned to protect you. Ways your system has learned to stay safe, stay functional, stay in control. But when they become your only way of operating and being, that's when the cost starts to show up. Because underneath every single one of these, there's still a body that may be holding more than it needs to. And the work for you isn't to change who you are. It's to expand your capacity to soften what's currently being held. If you're listening to this and thinking, that's me, but I'm not quite sure which one I am or which pattern I sit in fully, this is exactly why I've created the Archetypes of Transformation quiz. Because when you can actually see your pattern, how you hold, where your system braces, then everything starts to make sense. It becomes so much easier to work with yourself instead of constantly pushing through. So if you haven't taken the quiz yet, then I'm going to pop the link in the show notes, and I'd love for you to take it, as it really is a beautiful starting point to begin to understand yourself on a much deeper level. Because the truth is that you don't burn out from doing too much. You burn out from holding too much for too long, without release, without support, and without your system ever being allowed to soften and fully let go. And I know this not just from the work I do, but from what I've lived. And sometimes the most powerful thing that you can do is not hold it together, but gently learn how to let yourself be held to. So this week, as I wrap up this episode, I want to ask you to really think about where you might be able to reflect more deeply on what you are holding on to too tightly, what you might be able to test yourself in letting go a little bit or softening a little bit. Because that level of quiet burnout that's underneath the surface doesn't really need to be there in the way that you, as a high-functioning, highly capable woman, is used to holding on to. It really can be different. So thank you so much for listening. I hope this resonated, and I'd love for you to DM me, reach out, send me messages, and let me know which archetype that you are really relating to and where in your body you think you're holding it. And remember, be kind to yourself and keep standing tall like the tall poppy that you are destined to be. Keep shining your light brightly in the world. Stay tuned. Have a great week. And I look forward to hearing from you. Bye for now. Thank you for spending this time with me on Growing Tall Poppies. My hope is that today's episode has offered you something more than insight, that it's helped you feel a little more connected to who you are now, a little more trusting of your body, and a little more permission to stand tall without shrinking or forcing yourself forward. Post-traumatic growth isn't about fixing yourself or returning to who you once were. It's about understanding how you adapted, honouring your nervous system, and gently choosing what no longer needs to come with you. New episodes of Growing Tall Poppies are released weekly, every Tuesday, and I'd love for you to continue walking this path with us as we explore identity after adversity, integrity and visibility wounds, nervous system wisdom, and what it truly means to grow forward, grounded, aligned, and embodied. If this episode resonated, I invite you to subscribe, follow, share it with someone that you feel might need it, or simply take a quiet moment to reflect on what's ready to move forward for you. You can also find me on Instagram at Dr. Nat Green, on Facebook at Dr. Natalie Green, or over on YouTube at Dr. Nat Green. And remember, you don't need to rush, and you don't need to hide anymore. Stay connected, stay true, and keep standing tall like the tall poppy you are. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.